Hello, I'm Ron with Midwest Truck. Today we're going to be doing an install of Safety Cloud from HAAS Alert on an emergency vehicle. This is our HA-5 device that we'll be installing today on our 337 Peterbilt with a Miller Industries Rollback. Same concepts apply to almost any vehicle. Some of the standard tools that you may need: electrical circuit testers or a power probe, which is what I prefer. You can use you will need electrical tools, crimpers, cutters, strippers, possibly screwdrivers, socket set, wire ties, and an assortment of electrical connectors, heat shrinks, etc. The HAAS system is very simple to install. 3 wires, a constant ground, constant hot, and a trigger wire that activates the unit to start sending out its signal. We'll be installing that today here in just a few minutes. We'll get right into it. So the first thing we need to do is to determine the placement of the HAAS HA-5 unit. On this particular truck, we're going to mount it in the back window. Then we need to determine the wiring. On this specific truck, we don't have a simple wiring, so we're going to have to go to the power distribution unit, which I know on this one is under the seat. If you're not familiar with where your power distribution unit is, contact your distributor. It's still a very simple system though, as we discussed earlier. It's a constant power, constant ground, and a trigger wire. What I like to do is have it so that whenever the emergency lights come on, this box is activated. Very, very simple. I need to disconnect the batteries so that we do not hurt any of the circuits. We'll get that done and move on to the inside so we can get into the wiring. On this particular HAAS installation, I want to be able to use my emergency lights to activate the HAAS unit so that it's all no thought to it whatsoever. I've found out that this power distribution unit is where my light controls come from, so I can access all the wiring I need from inside this power distribution unit. Ethan, if you would please hook up my power probe while I take the lid off. Now, if you're unsure about this, please contact your manufacturer, get a wiring schematic, talk to somebody that knows so you do not damage your circuit boards. This one, I know from dealing with this one, roughly where everything is. You want to be careful not to short circuit anything. This should be my 12-volt constant power, which it is, right in the center. The circuit board is marked ground over here. You'll hear a difference in the tone when I hit the ground. That shows me a ground. Now I need to find the circuit that I want to activate the HAAS unit. I'm going to reach up and hit the switch. I want it on that specific switch right there so that when my emergency lights come on, the HAAS unit comes on. Come back down to the circuit board, and I can see that this light is illuminated. So it should be this circuit that powers that light. It's 12 volts on now. I'm going to turn the circuit off to see if we lose power. It goes dead. Back on. 12 volt power. So I know that that is where I need to connect. Okay. Now that we know where the wires are, we go out and disconnect the batteries to make sure that we do not damage the circuit board. Okay, we know for certain that Ethan disconnected all the battery cables. It's still very important to check for any residual power that may be held. I'm going to take my power probe. It is connected directly to a battery, even though the battery cables are disconnected. I want to check my hot, make sure there is no residual power, which right now there is none. And we have no continuity between the ground. So we are good. This circuit board is isolated so that we will not damage any of the circuits in this board. So now we're ready to go ahead and run the wire, which I've already pre-drilled a wire. Each installation is going to be a little bit different, but this one, as with all of them, should be fairly simple. We're going to mount this one in the rear window, the unit itself. I drilled a small hole in the base of the seat, ran the wire through the back of the seat and into the PDU, the power distribution unit. We've already got the ground in. Now it's time to connect the power and the trigger wires. I'll strip the wire back. I always find it goes in a little easier if you twist the wires before you fit it into the connector. On this one we're using ring tongues. Give it a good solid crimp and tug on it to make sure you've got a good solid connection. Then we'll do the same with our trigger wire. The trigger wire again is the white wire. Got a good crimp. Tug on it, make sure we've got a good solid connection. All right, now, again, we've noted that output 8 on this specific unit is my trigger wire. I'll go ahead and get that hooked in because it's the easier. All right. I'll take number 8. Now make sure that trigger wire is not touching anything other than the hot post coming out of that relay. And then I'll fasten it back down. You don't want to fasten it too tight. You want to make sure it's snug, but you don't want to fasten it too tight or you'll break the stud off of the circuit board. All right, now on this, to gain a little bit of space, I'm going to remove the circuit breakers. Give me a little bit more room to get into the hot wire that I need to access. All right, so this is constant power wire. Run it in, put the main power wire back down. And tighten her back down, making sure again that that wire doesn't, or the connector doesn't come into contact with anything else on the board. Again, you don't want to do it over tight. You just want to make sure you have a good solid connection. All right, it doesn't move either way. We're good to go there. Put the circuit breakers back in. All right, now before I put the top back on, we'll reconnect the batteries, connect the HA-5 unit to the wiring harness and make sure that we've got everything connected properly. Then we'll button everything back up. I've got the wiring done inside. Ethan has reconnected all the battery cables. So if we've done everything properly, all we have to do is connect this final cable to the HAAS alert unit. We should get the boot up lights. All right. The blue is cellular. The green is for the GPS. It's flashing right now because we're inside of a building. It may take a little while on your first install before they get cell and GPS signal. This is the one I'm worried about right now to make sure that my trigger wire is activated. Whenever I hit my emergency light button, that should turn orange, and it does. Turn it off, it should go back to green. We're good to go. We have a good install. Now we need to mount it, take it outside, and let it get GPS connection. We have the HAAS safety unit safely mounted on the back windshield where it has a clear line of sight. The blue is the cellular network. A solid green is the GPS network, which we're solid and we're good. Now we just need to check and make sure again that we have the orange light when we turn on the emergency lights. It turned to orange like it's supposed to. Turn it off, goes to green. When we turn it on while we're en route, it shows that we're en route. Once it shows no motion for 60 seconds, it then starts broadcasting that we are on site, and it gives a message. Ours is slow down, move over. We ask that everybody please slow down, move over. Stay safe out there, everybody.